Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be with you this morning. And I think just as I came on, I saw Mayorkas. Is that who was on right before me? I think so. Well, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to join you. Can you hear me? I don't think they can hear me. And I'd like to thank Romero Cavazos, President and CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, for that introduction. I'm very pleased to be here for this legislative summit entitled Policy That Powers America's Hispanic Business. So I applaud the work of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in helping Latinx businesses stay afloat and recover during this pandemic storm that we've been confronted with. So as chairwoman of the House Financial Services Committee, I want you to know that access to credit and capital for minority-owned businesses is an important priority for me. Today, I'd like to discuss some of my recent work as chairwoman of the committee. In response to COVID-19 crisis, I've been working around the clock to pass legislation and encourage policy that will bring relief to those suffering the health and economic effects of the pandemic across the nation. With millions out of work, millions falling behind on rent and mortgage payments, and millions of small businesses struggling, I've been focused on making sure that individuals, families, small businesses, and communities of color specifically get the relief and protections they need from our government. It is an unfortunate fact that this pandemic and its economic effects have had a disproportionate impact on communities of color and minority-owned businesses. A recent survey of Black and Latinx women business owners by Digital Undivided found that an overwhelming majority, approximately 70%, responded that COVID-19 resulted in a revenue decrease or loss for their business. Even more of those business owners, 90%, responded that they were no longer able to pay themselves at a sustainable level. The National Bureau of Economic Research found that Latinx business owners dropped approximately 32% from February to March 2020. Additionally, a December 2020 survey by your chamber in conjunction with the National ACE and U.S. Black Chamber noted that, let me quote, 21% of Hispanic-owned businesses reported having less than a month of cash to cover operating expenses. The Trump administration's implementation of pandemic relief programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP, left many small businesses, especially minority-owned businesses, locked out, while big banks administering the program funneled the funds to their large business clients first. For example, according to an August 2020 report from the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative, when requesting COVID assistance in the form of PPP loans, Latinx business owners were only half as likely as their white counterparts to receive them. To put additional congressional focus on challenges accessing capital during the pandemic and beyond, we convened a financial services subcommittee on diversity and inclusion hearing entitled Access Denied, Challenges for Women and Minority-Owned Businesses, Accessing Capital and Financial Services During the Pandemic. So I thank Ms. Costello, board chair for the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, for her testimony at that hearing. Further, I'm pleased that President Biden's American Rescue Plan includes my recommendations to provide more than $75 billion in economic relief for housing and rental assistance, small business lending, and other key relief. The American Rescue Plan also includes $10 billion to renew and enhance the state small business credit initiative, a federal program designed to help provide credit and investments in small businesses through the states. $1.5 billion would also be reserved to specifically support minority-owned businesses, as well as an additional $1 billion reserved for additional funding as an incentive for states to provide robust support to minority-owned businesses. Now, this is very important. This program has been around for some time, but it was supported by the government, underfunded, and so not a lot of people knew about it, and it wouldn't have done much good anyway because the money was not there. But this president has decided that not only is he going to make it available and put more resources into it, but specifically the Latinx and African-American protected businesses will be funded additionally above and beyond other businesses. Because communities of color, including minority-owned businesses, have been systemically excluded from financial services, access to capital, basic banking services, and home ownership, racial and economic justice will continue to be a major focus this Congress for the Financial Services Committee. According to the Federal Reserve's 2017 report on availability of credit for small businesses, women and minorities, especially African Americans and Latinx, experienced the highest denial rates and were the least likely to receive full funding in almost every financing category, including access to loans, credit cards, outside investors, and grants. And so the committee will remain focused on such barriers created by systemic racism in the housing and financial systems, and will be considering legislation to provide targeted investments and to remedy injustices that have resulted in the marginalization of people of color and the unconscionable wealth gap. Let me talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion, the subcommittee that I created when I took over as chair of the Financial Services Committee. The United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce embodies the need for diversity and inclusion in the business community and champions the success of minority-owned businesses, which are vital and necessary to having a thriving American economy. As one of my first official acts as the first woman and African-American chair of the House Committee on Financial Services, I created the first ever subcommittee on diversity and inclusion, chaired by my esteemed colleague from Ohio, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. This month, Chair Beatty and I sent data requests to the 41 largest U.S. asset managers for information on their diversity and inclusion policies and outcomes, including their spending with minority-owned businesses, such as the members of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber. We are continuing to hold the financial services industry accountable for diversity and inclusion, and to advance legislation that creates an economy where minority-owned businesses have greater access to capital and other financial services they so desperately need to be competitive and thrive in America and beyond. Chambers of commerce, especially those like the U.S. Hispanic Chamber that focus on minority-owned businesses, have another opportunity to assist their members by providing technical assistance in applying for federal COVID relief. The CARES Act and other stimulus funding in 2020 was provided to the Minority Business Development Agency, called MBDA. MBDA utilized its network of minority businesses, centers, and partnered with minority chambers, including the United States Hispanic Chamber, to assist minority-owned businesses in applying for PPP and other programs. For example, with funding from the CARES Act, your organization provided support to more than 6,000 Hispanic and minority-owned businesses through its 7 technical assistance centers at chambers across the country, while also hosting over 100 webinars and virtual trainings to help business owners recover during the pandemic. MBDA will be expected to look at how all affinity chambers of commerce, their current network of business development centers, and other small and minority-owned business advocates can be used to enhance and expand the technical and other assistance they provide. So let me thank you again for inviting me to join you for this event today. I'm so appreciative of the work of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you. I want to make sure that the Chamber really knows and understands the PPP program. And I want you to know that in addition to the work that I did, I want you to say a word of thanks to Nydia Velasquez, who is the chair of the Small Business Committee of Congress, who worked very closely with me. And when the big banks sent the money to their concierge clients and created portals for them and basically took advantage of the PPP program in the beginning, we had to refund it, the program, and we targeted $60 billion to the small and minority institutions so that they would have an opportunity to lend. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for the work that you guys have done in showing how important it is to have chambers of commerce across this country, giving assistance to many of our small businesses. Many had not really been involved with government before. Many were basically unbanked, and many did not trust that the government was really there to help. But you have been so helpful, and you have been so much focused on assisting, the small and minority businesses, the Hispanic-owned businesses, that I think that we can see a difference in what was happening early on when we first experienced the pandemic and what is happening now with the president's rescue plan that just got signed into law. This COVID-19 is unfortunate, but it has certainly opened up our eyes to how much was missing in these communities and how much we needed to do in order to make sure that there is opportunities that are afforded to all Americans from, all sectors of our society. So thank you again for inviting me this morning. We still have a lot of work to do. The president is going to announce today the infrastructure program, and it may be as high as $3 trillion. I don't know the exact number, somewhere between $2 and $3 trillion. There's going to be a lot of jobs, a lot of contracts. And so I'm focused on getting our cities and our states to have the kind of response to requests for proposals that will open up the doors for participation by many who have been left out over the years because of the insiders who had the contacts, and how many of our cities just simply award the contracts over and over again because early on they have some memorandums of understanding and contractual language that allowed those who were well placed to be able to get access to these opportunities for contracting without having to go through the bid process. And so we're going to make sure that these opportunities are available. This money, it's going to be so helpful, to our cities and our communities, a lot of jobs. We're not only going to be creating jobs, for the water systems to be replaced, for the bridges to be reconstructed, and for, our highways and all of those, aspects of our society that are considered infrastructure. But I've included housing in that. And I've included housing is infrastructure. And so we're going to have a significant amount of money for the building of units, for the support of home ownership, and for the repair and reconstruction of public housing. So these opportunities are opening up. Let's take advantage of them. I know that you will be right there doing everything that you can to assist these businesses. I appreciate you, and thank you for inviting me.